I've been doing dentistry for over 10 years and I've seen a lot of things. So today we're gonna go through the craziest videos you guys have tagged me in, and we're gonna explain them exactly what's going on and probably learn a little something too. Let's get right into it. All right, give yourself a 1-tooth challenge. What's a 1-tooth challenge? Oh my gosh! What in the cyclops looking tooth is that? That is actually pretty crazy. This girl has literally a tooth directly in the center of her mouth. I'm gonna pause it there so you can see we got the two canines here, we got the two laterals, and we've literally got this one central incisor going through the middle. So I know what you guys all tagged me and said, Bentist, what the heck? How does somebody get a cyclops tooth right in the middle? And it's actually pretty interesting. Normally what happens is early in life, this girl was missing one of her two front teeth. Now the funny thing is, a lot of the times the other tooth is still there. It's just impacted up here up top somewhere. It just didn't get to come down. Sometimes how we see impacted canines is what an impacted canine looks like. You can have that with your central incisors too. It is pretty common. And the fun fact is your body loves to use space. So if you have a space there, your teeth will shift and follow in that space because a lot of people don't have a big enough jaw for all the teeth. That's how we get crowding. So if you've got room, that teeth will just shift in and they will fill in that gap. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. You can see she has a little bit of a narrower arch because she's one tooth down, as we call it in orthodontics. And so she's missing that one tooth. There was a gap there and everything fell in. She probably had two front teeth when she had baby teeth. They both fell out and then obviously it came in with only one of those guys. I'm assuming probably if she took an x-ray, that other tooth would actually still be in there. So what do we do orthodontically? Well, we would use a little spring. We would open that space back up and either let that tooth come down in, or we would have to put an implant there in the front. To fix something like this, probably take about 1.5 to 2 years. Let's look at the comments. Oh my gosh, the forbidden Tom Cruise middle tooth. And that is true. Tom Cruise did have his tooth, but it was different. He had all of his teeth. They were just shifted to one side because he was missing a premolar or something, and it shifted that way. This girl's missing this tooth, so everything just shifts right to the middle. And that's actually even more rare because an extra front tooth, I don't think I've ever seen 3 front teeth before. That's actually wrong. Either way, you're just unique as you are. So maybe it's like a cool, fun party trick, but it can be fixed if you want to.
You want to know what happens when you don't listen to your parents when they tell you to brush your teeth?
Oh no. Oh man.
I already don't have very many teeth, but all of these, most of these, and all of these are gonna have to be removed. So I'm gonna have no teeth.
Oh no. Unfortunately, this is a really sad thing that I see quite a bit. In fact, I tell this story a lot, but back in dental school, we actually had to basically screen new patients to come in. And there was this kid who was like 19 years old and he was kind of talking about all of his teeth and stuff like that. And we looked at him and they were all bombed out. And I had to tell this 19-year-old kid that he had ruined all of his teeth and had to get them all pulled and go to dentures. And what she's saying is true. I mean, a lot of kids, you know, we like to basically disobey our parents. There's reasons why we tell you to brush your teeth. There's reasons why we tell you to floss. There's reasons why we say 2 minutes. There's reasons why we give you crap and we say go back up and brush better next time. You know, and it's because we've been through this ourselves as kids. You know, I had cavities when I was a kid. You can't see them, but I have all these silver fillings in the back of my teeth. I had like 10, 12 cavities as a kid that I had to get filled because, you know, I didn't want to do what my parents told me to. Like, or I ate too much candy, or I didn't brush. And when they told me to brush, I would only brush for 10 seconds and I would think I got one over on them. And this girl is saying something very important, which is the truth of the matter, which is you're going to lose those teeth and you're going to be in a spot where you're going to hate having to do that for the rest of your life. Not to mention that, but the cost. I mean, now she's going to have to get implants top and bottom and dentures. You know, it's a big mess in a world that she is in now because of some bad habits she did. And I commend her for doing this. I mean, it says if your kids don't want to brush their teeth, show this. So she's taking her pain and she's educating people with it. The same way that, you know, I had cavities in the past, I'm trying to educate you guys so you have better oral care for the rest of your life. And so I think it is really important to note, you know, that we laugh sometimes when I say, hey, you guys need to floss or 2 minutes to brush, but this is what we're trying to get you to go away from. And hopefully one day we solve oral disease forever. You know, here at Something Nice Company, that's literally what we're trying to do with our new biotech products coming out and all that type of stuff. And we're making good headway. And you'll see more of that in Q4 of this year. But until we get there, we gotta brush and floss, guys. Let's see what they said in the comments. So this one said, I showed my 5-year-old son and he said, well, she's a girl and I'm a boy, I'm okay. No. You know, maybe it's just something in the world where kids will always disobey their parents. I don't know, I can hope, but that girl just like, I'm gonna go brush my teeth just to make sure. Dude, that's how I am now that I'm older and I've had some cavities and some cracked teeth and things like that. You know, I'm just like, oh my God, I have to brush my teeth. I take so much good care of my teeth because I just really just don't want to have these issues as I get older. Oh my gosh, I never even thought about this one. This girl said, "Mommy, that's AI." Are we in a world where we can't even believe what's real or not anymore? Yes, this is real. This is not AI. And yes, really will happen to you if you don't brush your teeth. But shout out to her. I really appreciate her doing this message. I know it's not easy to put yourself out there on the internet, especially the fact that you're going to lose all your teeth. So her name is Jasmine Barajas, I think is what her name is. But thank you so much. I really do appreciate what you're doing because it's only going to help some people that watch this. We had 287,000 people liked it. So I know millions of people watch this. And even, think about that. If even 1,000 people go start brushing their teeth, that's a lot of people saved. So I appreciate you.
Don't you go get that root canal. Listen to me. Don't you go get that root canal, okay? You see what I'm holding in my hand? I bet you wondering, Maisha, why is that not in your mouth? I'm wondering the same damn thing. Don't you go get that root canal. This the third one to fall out.
I've seen a lot of anti-root canal content on my timeline lately. And while I do agree with some of it, and I've even talked about how, there is some hubbub going on in the root canal land because you guys don't understand. You have a main root and then you have all of these little tributaries, little branches of that. And if you get infection through all of those and you have someone who's maybe just a general dentist who doesn't really know what they're doing, they're not specialized, whatever, and they go in and they just do a root canal and they leave all that decay in there, it's going to get reinfected. You're going to have problems. It could even cause systemic blood problems, heart attacks, strokes. Bad things can happen if you leave decay in your mouth for a long time, right? And so I'm totally about, safety and going to a professional, making sure every little canal is fixed and all that. And I'm also really big on preserving real teeth forever because I know what it's like to not have those teeth. And I see people without those teeth and wearing dentures and things like that, and they hate it. So I'm a proponent of all these things. But the interesting thing that I see whenever people talk like this, and I totally understand, she says she's had 3 of these root canals and they keep coming off and they keep popping out and things like that. And then at the end, she's basically like, I would just rather get a crown or something than a root canal. And so that just made me realize, I was like, you guys don't really understand how root canals work. And that's really interesting because I think that that's the issue that's going on here is either her dentist did not educate her on this or she just doesn't know, or she just didn't think it was worthwhile. But here's what's going on. This girl did not just get a root canal, okay? She got a root canal and a post. That's what that little metal thing is sticking down. And it looks like that top thing that stuck to it is actually a temporary filling or even the core for that post, which is basically when you take away too much tooth structure, we have to put a little metal post in there for rigidity so it just doesn't break and fall in and crack, and then you kind of fill in the top, which is that core of the filling there. Now, what they don't tell you, or what they should tell you, is what you don't know, is that that's just a temporary thing. Like, that's the base of what it is, okay? That's like the foundation of the house, right? But you still got to build the house on top of it. And so she needs to go get a crown after this. When you get a root canal and you get it fixed because it falls out or whatever it is, they need to actually do the tooth and put a permanent crown on top to stop the core and post from falling out like this, because it's just a temporary solution by itself. It's not going to work by itself. It's going to get reinfected. It's going to, have issues, and it's going to fall out 3 times if you keep going to get it replaced without a permanent restoration over the top. And so I think that's the issue that we've got here is she keeps getting this root canal going on, and she's not getting the permanent housing or the crown over the top of it. How do I know that? Because she was like, I wish I would have just got a crown on top of this instead of this root canal. That's part of it. You have to get a crown with your root canal. They're together. And so while I do agree with some of the things being said about root canals and leaving infection behind is a bad idea. That's why I say always go to a root canal specialist if you're going to get a root canal, especially in these days with corporate dentistry and all the mills and stuff they've got going on. But I also agree that you can get a root canal really well done, and with a nice permanent restoration, it will last a long time. It's not just going to fall out of your mouth every day like this girl is. So she wanted a dental person to explain to her what was going on, and that is exactly what's going on. Let's see if anybody else figured it out in the comments. Someone said, never get a root canal, just get it pulled. And while I agree in some scenarios, if it's really bombed out, if there's an issue there, I don't agree with that, because if you pull it out, you got to get an implant. It costs a lot more money. Your bone will dissolve away. It's a lot of problems that go with getting it pulled as well. So I always tell people, especially if it's a single root tooth, go ahead and get the root canal done and then get a crown on it and save that tooth for as long as possible. Now, if it's a bunch of roots and you have a bunch of accessory roots and your specialist tells you it's going to be really tough to do, then you can make that decision to pull it if you'd like. Oh, look, somebody said it. You have to get a crown on top of your root canal. It will fail. I'm a dental assistant, and he's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. It's going to keep failing over and over if you don't put a crown on top of it, and that's exactly what we've got going on. So don't believe everything you see online, because there's always probably a little something underneath teeth that you don't quite know. Still talk to your specialist, see if a root canal is the right option for you, and if you do, make sure to get that crown. And if you do get it pulled, or you decide to go that route and get it pulled, that's fine. Just make sure you get an implant in place so that bone doesn't dissolve away to kind of hold it for a lot longer. I would personally rather just get the root canal and keep it, especially if a specialist is doing it and if it's a single root tooth for sure. Don't drink Red Bulls, kids. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's actually hilarious. So it looks like she's probably getting a bunch of fillings there. She's got her rubber dam clamp in there. But what if I told you it's not actually probably the sugar in the Red Bull that's hurting her? It's actually the acid, or a combo of both. Let's get into it. Now, obviously, if we look here, you can see that she's got her rubber dam in there. She's got a clamp on there, which means she's either going to get a filling there in the back on that back tooth, or maybe multiple fillings done. You know, maybe she needs a root canal or something like that. But the funny thing is a lot of people always talk when they're talking about drinks and stuff. They're like, oh, these sugary beverages, sugar, 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 sugar. And while that is true, it's really the acid that's really damaging your teeth in these things. So the way that acid works is it actually destroys your enamel. It weakens it and destroys it and wears it down over time. That's why if you see somebody with hyper acid production, like somebody with GERD, where they're throwing a stomach acid all night and they don't know it, you will see their teeth are worn away terribly, almost completely dissolved, because that acid is just eating away at their teeth. And fun fact, that sugar, while it still causes a problem by the acid it produces. So these bacteria, Strep mutans, P. gingivalis, etc., you know, they will eat sugar or carbohydrates and they will poop out acid. Okay, they will poop out acid to attack your teeth, weaken them so that they can burrow through them and get in there. And so the funny thing is we're like, don't eat sugar, you know, so that your bacteria don't produce acid on your teeth. And then we just throw citric acid and acid all over our teeth all day long in like candies and sour candies and Red Bulls and things like that. So what can I do about it, Bentist? First, if you do have an energy drink or something like that, rinse your mouth out with water immediately after. Try and get that pH back to neutral as fast as possible. And also don't brush your teeth for at least an hour after eating or drinking something acidic, because basically if they're already weakened, it takes about an hour for them to kind of strengthen back up with your saliva and things like that. And so basically if you're brushing your teeth when they're weak, you can actually wear away your tooth structure. So wait at least an hour after that and then put the water in there to neutralize the pH. And then lastly, get something like our nanohydroxyapatite toothpaste. I really do like our 10% zero toothpaste by something nice, but you can also get a fluoride toothpaste as well. Something to strengthen or defensively protect your teeth from these acid attacks. So protect your teeth from the acid attacks, decrease the pH, and wait an hour before you're brushing after eating or drinking something acidic so that you don't wear them away. And then hopefully you won't end up in a situation like this. All right, you guys tagging this. When your crowded teeth are literally eating away your tongue, oh my gosh. Oh yeah, she got the scallop tongue for show. Yeah, I totally understand this. Okay, so basically what you're seeing here is this girl has got her tongue, right? And you can see all these little ridges in there. And that's actually from the teeth pushing up against her tongue. It's not necessarily from your teeth being crowded per se. It does kind of make sense. It's either because your jaw is a little bit too small, it needs to be expanded out a little bit, or your tongue is just very large. And we do see, I can't really tell, you know what, I'm assuming she's African American. In the African American population, we do see a ton of large tongues. We call it macroglossia. So it is really common to have too big of a tongue for your mouth. And what that happens is when you're in sleep, your tongue is trying to fit up in somewhere. And so it's just pushing against everything else. And that's what's giving you that scallop tooth impression. Now, if she had her bite widen and that crowding taken away, it wouldn't be so narrow of an arch. So it would give more room for her tongue, basically making it to where it doesn't push up against it. Now, is this anything that's going to cause issues long term for her? No. You can get some ulcers on your tongue sometimes, and it can make it easier to bite them and cause a sore that way. But really, there's nothing negative about it. It's basically just your teeth pushing up against your tongue. Let's see what the people in the comments had to say. Someone said it is geographical tongue, and no, that's actually not geographical tongue. Geographic tongue is when you have all these little things that kind of sit on your tongue, the little red spots and white spots, and they will actually move around your tongue. This is just an impression. It's just an impression. Same thing as like when you're sleeping on your pillow and then you wake up and you've got a big dent in the side of your face from your pillow pushing against it. Yeah, it's the same concept. And someone said there's nothing wrong with crooked teeth. Basically makes you unique and beautiful. And while that is true in some case, there is problems with crooked teeth that you're going to have. Obviously, it's way easier to get cavities because it's harder to clean. It could be causing airway constriction because she needs more room for that tongue and its tongue's being pushed back. So crowded teeth is definitely a disease almost that would be probably good to get fixed because a lot of good stuff can come from that. And fun fact, you can go to to an orthodontist, do braces or Invisalign for that. And basically for the rest of her life, she will live with these impressions being on her tongue as long as that's still there. But it is fixable. All right, you guys tagged me and said that this toothpaste recipe was the best toothpaste recipe in the world.
I think it is the best toothpaste in the world. It's only 6 ingredients plus a little container. Starting with 2 tablespoons of bentonite clay powder.
Okay. I don't hate bentonite clay powder. It's basically just kind of a mild abrasive and has some...
Use a wooden or plastic spoon when dealing with bentonite clay. Do not use metal. Metal seems to mess with its abilities to absorb toxins. This stuff is so
I
good.
think it actually absorbs heavy metals out of the metal spoon, which is kind of shady a little bit. So make sure you use a wooden spoon.
Coconut oil.
Okay. Coconut oil, you know my thoughts on coconut oil. It's basically just an emulsifier and makes it the paste.
Next, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of our beloved xylitol.
Oh, xylitol's great. Okay, this actually isn't too bad of a toothpaste so far.
Of ground cloves. Super powerful at protecting and soothing our teeth.
Cloves are basically, they just kind of almost numb the area a little bit. There's not really much else to do.
Half a teaspoon of neem powder.
Okay.
The stuff is bitter, so
neem is okay. Basically what neem does is it's an anti-inflammatory. It can cause like sloughing of the gums and cause some issues if you use too much of it, so be careful with that for sure. And then she's adding some flavoring in there.
Measurements for a super small batch.
Why does it look like chunky peanut butter?
See how you like it. It takes a bit to get used to, but eventually you fall in love with it. I also just wanted to say that I'm really...
And I mean, to be honest, I don't have an issue with this. I mean, the xylitol will do some of the bacteria fighting and things like that. The one thing that I really don't like, and we've talked about it in previous videos, is you have no protection of your enamel against acid. And when we eat and drink things all day long that are just covered in acid, citric acid, candies and drinks and sodas, and you know, any carbonated beverage you ever drink is tons of carbonic acid. All of those things destroy your teeth, which is why you need a fluoride or a nanohydroxyapatite. And so it doesn't have either one of these. So yes, it can help with antibacterial. Yes, anti-inflammation. Yes, some other good things in there and just the basic scrubbing to get the bacteria off. But it's not really helping strengthen your teeth, which I think is a big thing missing from this toothpaste and why I probably wouldn't recommend it over like say our 10% nanohydroxyapatite zero toothpaste. But it is a good natural tooth. It's about as good as you can get with a natural toothpaste, to be honest, because you can't just go buy fluoride and like drop fluoride in there. You could probably buy some nanohydroxyapatite, but it's very expensive and you want to make sure you're getting the right stuff. So that probably wouldn't make sense either, because then it would just be as expensive as buying a tube of toothpaste from, you know, me or somebody who's actually got like legit people doing it and under FDA scrutiny, you know. So yeah, basically don't hate it that much. If you're gonna do natural toothpaste, it's a good way to go. Let's see what the comments had to say. Someone said, dental hygienist here, this sounds great. The clove is so soothing for the gums, which is true. I may have to try it to alternate with my fluoride toothpaste. It was actually a really smart thing to do. You just, you know, you alternate between that fluoride protection and another alternate ones, just so you don't have too much fluoride. We don't have fluoridated water in my town, so we see lots of decay. That's a total thing. A lot of people rag on fluoride a ton, but it is pretty huge in basically protecting your teeth. It basically just makes your enamel a different version of hydroxyapatite to make it stronger, where nanohydroxyapatite basically comes in and just helps rebuild the actual tooth structure back. So they kind of work in different ways. Someone said you should make it your own self-care products or a recipe book for all your homemade products. And I mean, I don't have an issue with homemade products as long as there's someone should make a book like that, but have it be science-based. I think that would be really cool to tell you exactly what the research shows that it will do. Like for neem, there was a lot of research on inflammation and antibacterial stuff. It says it actually works pretty good, almost the same as chlorhexidine in a mouth rinse, which is really good. There's just some issues that can come with it, like mouth burning and then the sloughing of your tissue falling off and things like that, which they don't tell. But either way, I don't have an issue with it at all. Point of view, you decide to get composite bonding. Okay, let's see these guys. Okay. I don't hate it. I think it looks like he probably got it on some of his front teeth. I can't really tell, honestly. You know, at first I was like, dang, those are white, which true, they are pretty white. And that is one of the issues we see in composite bonding, is that really you don't get the same translucency of a tooth that porcelain will give you, which is a veneer. Now, composite bonding normally has been the lesser choice over veneers, but that's slowly changing over time with all these 3D printed composite veneers. You can do a lot of really cool stuff nowadays with veneers. I have even personally thought about going and getting some composite or 3D printed veneers, just to kind of change the slight shape of my teeth, because they've gotten so much better in the years. Another huge benefit of composite veneers is that you don't have to shave down your teeth like you do with veneers. With veneers, you need to place something back. So you have to take the tooth structure off so that you can replace it with that. Composite veneers go over the top. Now this used to be a problem because it made your teeth super chunky and thick. But now, like I said, these composite veneers that are 3D printed in these newer materials, they can be way thinner and have the same compressive strength. And if they break, who cares? You know, you haven't damaged your teeth at all. You can even pop them off and get them taken off later and go back to your natural teeth if you want to. So I'm actually a really big fan, and I think that we're going to just see people moving further and further and further into this composite veneer or 3D printed veneer type trend as technology just keeps getting better and better. Now, my whole stance still stays. If you like the shape of your teeth and you have pretty teeth, go get braces or Invisalign, fix them up, use the teeth that you've got. If you've got really ugly teeth, like they're too small, they're too thin, they're misshapen, or maybe you have a bunch of fluoride spots or something like that that you hate looking at, then a composite veneer or 3D printed veneer type situation like this is something that I think would be a huge benefit for you because you can change the look of it without damaging your enamel. Let's see what the people said in the comments. Oh my gosh, that's funny. He really does look like him a lot. That's actually kind of creepy how much he looks like them. Someone said, I can tell in the comments that some people don't know what a composite bonding means. It is not a veneer. And we just went over that. Yes, you're very correct. It is not a veneer. And someone says, do you have to get braces or Invisalign before? And that is true sometimes. If you have super crowded teeth, obviously you can't put the veneers on. It would just look super weird. So even with composite veneers or 3D printed veneers or anything like that, sometimes you do have to do some mild orthodontic therapy anyways beforehand. And most of the time for people that I've done that on, they've ended up just loving the braces and Invisalign so much, the result of that they don't even want veneers afterwards because they realize they have pretty teeth. And guess who else has pretty teeth? My followers and subscribers. That's right. If you see a video here and here, that's because YouTube thinks that you're gonna like it. So click on that to support me. It really helps a ton. Also like this video and make sure to subscribe, guys. We're trying to get to 10 million and beat out all the old legacy care companies and be the #1 oral care company in the world. Something nice. So click that link, check out some of our products. I guarantee you're gonna love them. Till next week, I'm the internet's dentist, the Bentist. I'll see you next time. Peace.